Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa, and if you're new here, please be sure to subscribe to my channel for more astrology videos if you want to learn more, and be sure to like this video if you liked it. And let's go ahead and get started with today's video. And it's actually going to be a little bit of a break from starting a new series, a new planet series, while I'm still kind of deciding on which one to do next. I wanted to do a tag video. I just thought we could get a little bit more personal with, a little bit of my background, a little bit of who I am, and just getting to know more of my views, I guess, on astrology, and everything to do with that. I found these questions on YouTube because there's apparently this astrology tag going around, and people are doing videos of answering these questions, and so I thought I would do that today. The first question is number one, what's your sun, moon, and rising sign? And I am an Aries sun, Capricorn moon, and a Leo rising. Yeah, I don't know if that really comes off through my videos or not. I'd love to know if you've had any other impressions of what my signs were just from, I don't know, first impressions or whatever. So let me know in the comments. Number two is, what are your number one favorite and least favorite placements in your own chart? And I would have to say my favorite placement in my chart is my Venus in the 8th/9th house. And I say it's kind of in both because it's actually towards the very end of being in the 8th house. So some astrologers will interpret it as being in the 9th house since it's really close to being in the 9th house. So yeah, that's my least favorite, my most favorite, I think. And I would have to say that one because I just really like the idea of it. I like the idea of, this really lighthearted, casual, beautiful planet being in this house of depth. And, the 8th and the 9th house are both very deep houses. And it's all about, it's anything but surface. It's all about finding out the truth. And, the 8th house is like the hidden truth, and it's like the mysteries of life and your deep, psychological fears, whereas the 9th house is about traveling, expansion, and exploring all that life has to offer. And I think Venus placed in either of these houses, I think, is something that I really appreciate, and something both of them both of these placements I've been able to identify with at different parts of my life. As for my least favorite placement, I really don't like that much my Mars in the 12th house. And it's just really difficult. Like, all my life, I've identified with that, I've related to it. And ever since finding out my chart and seeing, oh, my Mars, it's especially important because I am an Aries sun. And seeing that my Mars was in the 12th house, and not just in the 12th house, but it's also in Cancer. So it's already, it's a little bit difficult to begin with, and then placing it in the 12th house, it's like sort of it's hard to find motivation sometimes, or find energy to do what needs to be done to go forward, move forward, assert yourself. It's sort of this weird relationship that a Mars in the 12th house person can have with finding motivation, because you're sort of locked away in your own subconscious. Number three is, what is the stupidest question or comment you've received from someone about astrology? And I wouldn't really say that any question is stupid. Like, a real, genuine, serious question about astrology, there's no such thing as a stupid question, because people who are really truly willing to learn and are very already open-minded about the subject are going to ask questions. And even if it sounds simple or stupid to you, that's really not fair of you to judge anybody who's asking a genuine question and who actually wants to learn. So I wouldn't say that I would call any kind of question stupid. But comments, I've heard. Comments, there's all kinds of stupid, crazy comments about astrology that I'm sure everyone has heard of or dealt with at some point in their life. Number four, what is a placement that you are envious of? And I guess it's sort of changed over the years, but right now I think I would love to have a Venus in an earth sign. I was born with Venus in Aries. It's very, very much different from having a Venus in an earth sign, because Aries is all about go, go, go. It's about impulsive actions. doing things without really thinking, taking action, and then thinking about it later. And so I think with a Venus and Earth sign, it would really ground me a lot more in my relationships and help me to be a little bit more cautious, a little bit more, think a little bit more critically, I think, with who I choose to associate with and who I choose to pursue as far as relationships go. And so I really think that that would be good to have, very useful to have right now. But yeah, like as I said, it kind of changes throughout my life, like depending on what I'm going through. So yeah, right now it would be to have a Venus and an Earth sign. Any Earth sign would be awesome. And number 5, what is your favorite Mars placement in someone else? And I would have to say Taurus or Leo, Mars and Taurus or Leo. And this is because I really admire, when I think of Mars and Taurus, I really think about stamina and it's sort of combining the uh, soft Venusian energies with the strength and the aggression of Mars. And I think of a very like suave type of character, I think, when it comes to like sexuality. I feel like me as a Mars in Cancer would feel very safe and very like protected with a Mars in Taurus. So I really, really like that one. And a Mars in Leo also because, I like their flashiness. As a Venus in Aries, I do appreciate that. And I like how confident they are and just, going after what they want and, seeing value in their own selves and just being a little bit cocky about it. I personally don't really mind that. As a Venus in Aries. So I find that attractive sometimes when it's done like the right way or not. And I think it's cute. Number 6 is what moon or moons do you think you would give your future child? And I'm not sure what I would give them, but I would like to have a Leo or a Cancer moon child. I feel that maybe if they were like a Cancer moon, for example, um, and I have a Mars in Cancer, so it would probably really encourage me or motivate me to really take care of them and um, protecting them, making sure they're safe is something that would come really naturally, I think, for a native Mars in Cancer. And so if they had a moon in Cancer, they would really spark that inside of me. And I just think moon in Cancer kids are like, I think they could be, despite being a little bit needy, I guess, or emotionally attached to things, I personally don't think I would mind that at all in a child. And I think a Moon and Leo child would also be great just because they would probably enjoy being the center of attention, and growing up they would want to exercise their creativity, and that's something that I personally relate to, something that I grew up with too as a Leo rising. I grew up in creative environments too and with those same desires, and so I feel like a Leo moon, I could relate to that and I could help encourage that and foster that same creativity in them because it would come naturally to them and they would have a natural inclination to um, want to express themselves that way. Number 7 is, do you have any birth chart deal breakers when it comes to someone you'd be in a relationship with? Synastry wise, yeah. I can think of a few synastry deal breakers that I've experienced with multiple people before, and it wasn't a great ride, and it was just one of those things that really stood out in our relationship, I think, and that I just think about it and I never want to deal with it ever again. And that would have to be too many eighth house overlays. I used to be like so fascinated with eighth house overlays in synastry, and I think it's because I have a Venus in the eighth house. So it's like I maybe consciously or unconsciously seek those types of relationships that are very intense and that do have that eighth house quality. And so I've experienced those types of relationships before. It's really, really exhausting, and it just kind of like beats the shit out of you, I think. I've yet to experience a positive eighth house overlay relationship with somebody. I think eighth house overlays in synastry just sort of bring out this sort of energy inside of me that isn't for the best. It's not for the greater good, and it doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make the person I'm with feel good. It just it just sparks something inside of me that I really don't like showing. And really that is an eighth house theme, is when when someone's energy is put into your eighth house, it's like they bring out that side of you that you don't want anyone to see. They bring out like your secrets and their fears and your insecurities all coming to the surface when you're with this person somehow. And I also think another deal breaker with me would be somebody with a poorly aspected Venus, and I mean like majorly aspected with like no trines or sextiles at all whatsoever, just all squares and oppositions. And that to me is a bit of a red flag. I mean, I'm not gonna like avoid talking to a person just because I look at their chart and see that they have an afflicted Venus. Like, I'm not gonna do that, but it is something to be careful about. And if I see that in a chart, it's just like, especially with like Venus Uranus, Venus Neptune, it's a little bit scary for me to face a person like that, to deal with a person like that, just because I know that they're gonna have these expectations that they're gonna need a lot of space, they're gonna need a lot of independence, they're gonna be up and down like every single day, and give off the most unclear messages, the most inconsistent messages with Uranus and Neptune to Venus. Like, they're gonna have these sort of images of the female, of they're gonna have sort of these their own preconceived notions of what the female image should be like and what women should be like, how they should behave in a relationship. Because I'm talking about the chart of like a straight male. If he has an afflicted Venus, he's going to have these sort of expectations, these sort of unrealistic attitudes about women and their role in the relationship. So that's just something that I've grown to be a little bit more cautious of. If I do see it, it's sort of a warning sign for me. I wouldn't say this one is a deal breaker, but too much air placements, I think. Too much like air personal planets like Moon, Venus. I don't really, it's not really a deal breaker for me, but not really something that I've always gravitated towards, I guess. And it's a bit weird considering I do have a Saturn, considering I do have an Aquarius descendant. You know, for some reason, I just have never been drawn to air placements. And theoretically speaking, like when I just think about them, air placements like in a relationship, it's I have a lot of fire and water in my chart, so I like passion and I like people who show passion and emotion. And not that air placements are unemotional, but they just have a better way of like making things a little bit more logical, a little bit seeing things more objectively, you know, being able to detach their head from their heart. And maybe that is something that I need in my own life, in the people that I associate with, you know, to balance me out. And that probably is a good deal, but you know, just for some reason I haven't been like super drawn to air placements throughout my whole life. And the next question is, what made you believe in astrology? I would have to say the point where I really started to get into it was when I first saw my chart for the first time. And it's always a crazy revelation once you see your chart for the first time. You know, as a beginner, you only know your sun sign, you only know like your horoscopes in the magazine section, but like once you see that full picture for the first time, it's crazy. And I encourage anybody who hasn't done yet, if you're watching this, if you only know your zodiac sign, please go ahead and look up your birth chart. And I've left a link in the description of all my videos for where you can look up your chart. You would have to know your birth time and your birthplace. And I strongly suggest you do, because it's going to open a whole entire world of possibilities for you. And it's so fun just learning more and more about your chart, and you know, just reading things and being like, oh wow, that explains a lot. You know, seeing how incredibly accurate and crazy it is. So I would say that would have to be the time where I first really like started getting into it and started believing in it, I guess you can say. Number 9 is, what are the most and least relatable things in your chart? And again, I think it changes a lot throughout my life. You know, the things that I relate to, I things that I haven't related to in the past when I was a kid. You know, I've grown up and I see, okay, that does make sense, and that does make sense that it's a part of my chart. You know, it explains this, why I'm going through this and this and this, and why I'm behaving differently now. And so I think right now at this stage, my most relatable is having Venus opposite Jupiter. And I don't really want to go that much into detail about that. It's just, you know, you can probably put the pieces together if you consider what each thing stands for. So Jupiter is expansion, Jupiter is about indulgences. It's about, you know, not being able to get enough, and, you know, just seeking more and more and more. And I think my least favorite, my least relatable placement right now would have to be my Jupiter in the third house, or my Leo rising. And the Leo rising is, it's actually conjunct Chiron, so that does change things a lot. So if you have a certain ascendant sign and you don't really particularly relate to it that much, you might have things in the first house or conjunct your ascendant or aspecting your ascendant. So yeah, it makes sense that I don't fully relate to having a Leo rising. I'm not like super loud, outgoing, and like the center of attention or whatever, because I do have that Chiron there, and it changes things quite a bit. The other one is my Jupiter in the third house, and I actually have a lot of siblings. I have quite a few, well, more than the average person, I think. I have 5 siblings. When I also think of Jupiter in the third, I think of like being able to express yourself verbally and like communicate very, very naturally, very well. I've always been a pretty like closed off, like reserved type of person. I think even with my friends, I've always been like pretty quiet, and so that's something that I haven't always related to. In some ways, I do relate to it, because like the sibling thing, and with wanting to learn a lot, excelling and achieving a lot. Like in grade school, I skipped a grade. I was always getting awards in school and stuff like that. But number 10 is, what celebrity is closest to your natal chart? And I had to do a little bit of some research, but the one that I noticed that comes kind of close to it, it's not completely 100% there, but Reese Witherspoon's chart, she's also an Aries Sun, Leo rising, Capricorn moon, and she also has, let me pull up her chart like real quick. She's also a Mars in Cancer, Mercury in Pisces, Taurus midheaven, Moon in the 5th house, Venus in the 8th house, Mercury in the 8th house, Sun in the 9th house. So that's a lot of similarities I have with her, apparently. I'm just gonna go ahead and put her chart like right up there, and you can see for yourself. So that's about it for the astrology tag. Those are all the questions. I'm so curious what you guys would have to say about these questions as well, answering about your own chart. So I'm going to leave the questions in the description, and if you want, you can go ahead and reply how you would answer these questions. So thank you so much for watching, and so I hope that gave you a little bit of some insight on like my personal take on astrology, and a little bit more of my background of what my chart is and how I view it, and, you know, like just a little bit of an introduction, I guess. I do want to get a little bit more personal on this channel, doing other types of videos besides just like doing the series, planet series. So if you have any other requests or challenges or like tags that I can do that I haven't heard about yet, you can go ahead and suggest that to me. I really like talking to you guys in the comments and interacting with you. Go ahead and follow my other social medias at lunarcappy, and like this video if you haven't already, and make sure to subscribe as well to my channel if you haven't, and I'll see you again for another video coming very soon.